At Ritual, we know what goes into a magical holiday season. The potluck planning, the gift giving, the spreadsheets. This new year, take a moment for yourself with simple, daily rituals that help you put your foundational health at the top of your to-do list. Rituals Essential for Women 18 Plus Multivitamin is a clinically backed multivitamin featuring 9 high-quality key essential ingredients to help you fill key nutrient gaps in your diet. Or maybe you're stressing your daily protein intake, or you want to double down on support for your gut microbiome. From plant-based essential protein to 3-in-1 pre, pro, and postbiotic strains with Symbiotic Plus, Ritual helps you focus on supporting your body after a long season of juggling everybody else. And for a limited time, do it with 30% off a 3-month supply at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. At Ritual, we know what goes into the holiday season. The potluck planning, the gift giving, the spreadsheets. So this new year, take a moment for yourself with science-backed support that puts you first. So whether you're focusing on supporting foundational health with a clean vegan multivitamin or supporting your gut health with Symbiotic Plus, do it with 30% off your first month at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Director for Americans for Prosperity. That almost deserves a little bit of applause, if I could get that. All right. You know, I have this set up here. I'm going to try this for a few minutes. I just like the way it looks. I just like the way that the Ohio thing pulls in there and all that. Instead of the it's a little bit more spazzy. All right, guys, I want to talk for a minute before we get with Donovan O'Neill talking about Americans for Prosperity. We'll talk about the jobs growth. That's something I want to talk about, or the lack of jobs growth here in Ohio. I put this up only because, I don't know if you guys are aware of it or not, but Dr. Amy Acton is going to run for governor. This is her website. She is an advocate, a problem solver, guys, and that's her claim to fame right there to run. Now she is running.
Is AOC unavailable?
Yeah, not for Ohio. Come on, we're talking.
Yeah, we're talking AOC of Ohio.
Yeah. We're talking Ohio here. Now, this was just the other day with Amy Acton.
When I stepped down in June, it was because I refused to sign orders that were coming from the legislature, from lobbyists, and particularly Larry Householder, that frankly would have killed people. Okay, so she was on some kind of a talk show or something telling people that the reason that she resigned from DeWine's administration way back when with COVID was because they wouldn't listen to her, and these people. They
wouldn't shut down. Hey Joe, there's actually great commentary from Jack Windsor from Ohio Press Network (OPN).
Yeah.
Let me just interject it really quickly because I think it was the best commentary that I saw on social media. Jack Windsor made the comment, and I think he's spot on, that within a week, I think it was like within a week prior to Amy Acton stepping down, saying Ohio's not doing enough to shut down things like county fairs and things like it. She had zero comment on all of the George Floyd riots that were taking place. So it was a weird juxtaposition. We saw these protests all over the country with tens of thousands of people burning and looting and beating each other up and attacking cops and everything. She had zero comment on that. But somehow, if people got together for like a fair or something, that, of course, would be catastrophic to health. The implications of that are astounding. By the way, why did I lose my background?
I'm trying something different. I tried something different. I like that black. I might go back and forth there.
Can you put some stars like I'm in space?
We may try that. Anyhow, real quick, Joe,
it's not DeWine that's supporting her, is it?
No, I doubt it. I mean, like you said, she's running as a Democrat, okay? So what was interesting is that Tim Ryan might be running for governor. Allison Russo might be running for governor. Sherrod Brown on the Democrat side. Okay, so that's a possibility, those three. And then with the Republican side, Vivek Ramaswamy should be running. Dave Yost, Robert Sprague. Okay, basically those three from what I've heard. Now, if you remember, just real quick on Acted, because, what chance does she have? She has zero chance. She has absolutely zero chance of winning. Less than zero, if that's possible, okay? So it's a really strange, just a very strange lady. But I don't want to, just pick on her because she's an easy target in that to pick on. But this is the guy...
However, at the breakfast, DeWine said...
That I'm a little concerned with the guy on the left there, DeWine, because she was working for him. And there he is again. And, you really have to scratch your head as to why he chose her. As to why. It's just... And she was the state health director, and she was barely a doctor. And when I say barely a doctor, she was basically got out of doing clinicals and did a little bit of shadowing at some of the hospitals, and then she. I don't know that we have to spend too much.
I don't know that we have to spend too much time scratching our heads, Joe. If I can interject.
Go ahead.
Our frequent guest, our periodic guest. Oh, cool! I got my background back.
Yeah.
Stephanie Stock from Ohio Advocates for Medical Freedom has commented publicly, and actually there are a lot of comments from her followers and people that follow Ohio Advocates for Medical Freedom, and last year's effort to pass House Bill 73, which was the Ohio Medical Freedom Act. And people have been commenting for at least a year now that really three main players, according to public sentiment, public understanding, we've got DeWine and the two Huffman cousins, Steve and Matt Huffman, according to public lore, are the three most funded by Big Pharma. So if we've got DeWine, if that's true, I haven't actually looked at his finance reports myself. I believe it to most likely be true. If he is funded primarily or significantly by Big Pharma, then his selection of Amy Acton, and then, of course,
makes
last year's line item veto, it makes sense. It starts to all come together.
That does make a lot of sense because, I was trying to figure that whole thing out, too, with Amy Acton. But that all makes sense now if he's in with all of that. Let's go to our guest here, Donovan O'Neill. How you doing, Donovan? Good to see you, man.
Doing good. Thanks for having me here with you guys. Appreciate it.
Well, it's good. So you're the state director there of Americans for Prosperity. And there was a bunch of things we want to talk about. I thought maybe one thing that's really on my mind is the jobs growth thing. Let me just get into that for a second and get your opinion on all that. But I do have a stat here. I got this off of actually, I got to give credit to Matt Mayer. He sent this out his Substack page. But this is Ohio jobs growth over the last 6 years, okay? Bureau of Labor Statistics right there. If you see the red, there's three categories where we've lost jobs over the last 6 years, which is a cardinal sin. We should not be losing any jobs in Ohio. Mining, manufacturing, and information. So those three categories right there. And we created, not counting farm jobs and stuff, 107,000 jobs over 6 years, which is pretty pathetic, okay? It's very anemic. If we go to Tennessee here, I'll just show you this. They have green in every category. So Tennessee, they're doing pretty good. 232,000 jobs they created there. And something else in line with Tennessee here that I think we need to bring to light is Tennessee got rid of their state income tax, and I know that's something you want to talk about. They're also a right-to-work state, and they are, of course, Republican. And I think that's the trifecta that does it. Republican, right-to-work state, and getting rid of the state income tax. Tennessee has 4.5 million fewer people in their state than Ohio, but they outdid us. They outdid us a lot. Let me just talk real quick on a couple other states.
Joe, can I ask a question? We've got to have Donovan tell our audience who Ohio, the Americans for Prosperity, who they are, what do they do? Many people may not know.
That's a good point, because I take it for granted everybody knows what's going on with Americans for Prosperity. Let's just switch. Let me get you in here, Donovan. All right, yeah. Donovan, go ahead and explain to everybody what Americans for Prosperity does, and I apologize for that. Go ahead.
Hey, no worries. We've known each other a long time, Joe, and Brian, I know you you work with some of our team up there, very familiar with some of our team in Northeast Ohio, as they are your guys' work. And Jonathan and Leonard, pleasure to be here with you tonight. Yeah, well, for those of your viewers, listeners who aren't familiar with Americans for Prosperity, we just celebrated our 20-year anniversary. We've been around 20 years nationally. We are one of the nation's largest grassroots advocacy organizations, conservative grassroots advocacy organizations operating in all 50 states. We have chapters like we have here in Ohio in 38 states. Ohio is one of the larger chapters in the organization. And what I like to say we do, just to boil it down and keep it real simple, is we put a megaphone to the voices of Ohioans, Americans who are frustrated with the direction the state or country might be going. And
Hey there. Ritual here to give a big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. The magic of those family moments, that was you. And now there's new milestones to prep for in 2025. This new year, check clean, quality pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list with Ritual. We've done the research to create science-backed pregnancy support like our prenatal multivitamin, natal choline, and fertility support, all designed to be taken alongside each other. But don't just take our word for it. They're also third-party tested for microbes and heavy metals and Clean Label Project certified. So whether you're trying, thinking about trying, or already there, we don't have to tell you that prioritizing yourself can be the hardest part. That's why we're helping you get started today with 30% off a 3-month supply for a limited time at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. At Ritual, we know what goes into the holiday season. The potluck planning, the gift giving, the spreadsheets. So this new year, take a moment for yourself with science-backed support that puts you first. So whether you're focusing on supporting foundational health with a clean vegan multivitamin or supporting your gut health with Symbiotic Plus, do it with 30% off your first month at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Want to make positive change. They want to make a difference. And so we put our megaphone to their voices and help empower them to go out and make that change happen, whether it's knocking doors in their community, to advocate for a candidate or issue that they are passionate about, or it's bringing them to the State House to have their voices heard in the halls of the Ohio State House or Congress. We do all of it. And pleasure to be here with you talking about some of the big issues, because Joe, doing the show we're hitting on is one of the main reasons we created our Buckeye Blueprint policy agenda.
All right, so I'm going to get into that here in just a second. I'll get into that whole Buckeye Blueprint thing, but a couple other states. I just want to get your thoughts and let this sink into some of the people here as to the anemic jobs growth here in Ohio. So a couple other states that I pulled up, and this is over the last 6 years. Let's try. Of course, Texas is a big one. Texas is huge. Okay. They're 2.5 times the size of Ohio in population, but they created 15 times more jobs. They created 1.6 million jobs over the last 6 years. Florida, of course, Florida is just crushing it. They created 1.1 million jobs over the last 6 years, but they're only about twice the size of Ohio in population. Go to somebody else here, Utah, which you would think that we would outdo Utah pretty easily. It's not happening. They have doubled us in job growth over the last 6 years, and they're 3.5 times smaller in population than Ohio. And one other one I want to throw at you is Idaho, which is a very small state population-wise, 6 times smaller than Ohio. They are a right-to-work state. They are Republican. They still have a state income tax, but, they crushed it as far as Ohio. I mean, they just outdid us in every job sector. So let's use that as a starting point, okay? What's wrong with Ohio?
Well, as I like to say, there's a lot to like about Ohio, Joe. We all live here as one reason. It's a great place to live. You got a lot of opportunity, a lot of diversity in what the state provides, right? You start, from Northwest Ohio and the agricultural, working your way across to a lot of the commercial and opportunities, that exist within the three C's: Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, into the manufacturing Rust Belt, right? That is the Mahoning Valley down into Appalachia. We've got a lot of good going for us. But I think one of the challenges we've had is that we just haven't taken the big, bold leaps that many other states like you're laying out there, Joe, have done, right? And so it's why we say we're middle in the Midwest when we ought to be number one in the nation. You look at income taxes, right? Texas, Tennessee, and Florida have 0% income tax, and they're eating our lunch. When it comes to education choice, we've made some gains in this area in the last 2 years, and hopefully we'll make some more over the next. But, states like Iowa, West Virginia passed major education savings accounts, right? 2.5 hours south of me across the Ohio River in West Virginia, they've got a program called the Hope Scholarship, and that puts money not in the hands of bureaucrats when it comes to education, but in the hands of parents to make sure that child's education meets that student's needs. These are areas, again, we're making gains and progress on, but what we really need, right, and it's a key part of our Buckeye blueprint, our vision for a bolder, better Buckeye State, is having an executive, a leader, right, and a legislative body that's going to work to actually enact these big transformational policies. So rather than being the 20th or 30th state to get to a flat tax or a 0% income tax, we can be the 10th state in the union to get to a 0% income tax, or for the 15th state. We got the opportunity this year to be the 15th state in the union to get to a flat tax. We gotta be a top 10 state if we want to remain competitive, because the world around us is moving at a rapid pace. And we've got the right ingredients to get it done here in Ohio. We just got to have the courage and boldness to do so.
All right. So let me get your thoughts on this. Do you think the blueprint then is, we are Republican, which is great. That's like number one. The second one would be getting rid of the state income tax. Do you think that would just balloon with the job growth, getting rid of the state income tax, do you think?
Yeah. Well, and one of the interesting things, you hear this from our progressive friends in the General Assembly when we're there testifying or having conversations around making this change happen. They say, look, we've been cutting the income tax. And Joe, by the way, we've done a phenomenal job over the past 15 years. We moved Ohio from, I believe it was 9 tax brackets with a top marginal rate over a little over 5%. We're down to 2 tax brackets with a top marginal rate of 3.5%. And legislation that was recently introduced by Senator George Lang and Senator Steve Huffman would move Ohio to a top marginal rate with 1 bracket, flat tax of 2.75%. The problem, though, in this, right? So you say, well, gosh, we're moving along, doing good. It's incremental change. The vision and the goal of getting to a 0% income tax is just as important as the journey to get there. Because what it signals, right? It signals to businesses, employers, folks looking to invest and create jobs and opportunity here in the Buckeye State. It signals to them that each and every one of their employees will get to keep 100% of their paycheck when they get it every other Friday, right? It's something that only, I believe, 9 other states right now do. If you can be the 10th state to do that, the first in the Midwest, the 10th in the nation to get that done, it sends a message, right? And it's a message that gets employers to pay attention to us compared to the states of Texas, Tennessee, or Florida, as I mentioned, where we see a lot of economic opportunity and development going.
I got you there. Okay, so there's a couple other items that you guys are focusing on. I know education, and any of these ones or any order that you want to go in, Donovan, is fine with me. I know you got school choice with the education. Energy is a big one, too. And I was reading some of that information that you sent me. We're still subsidizing 2 coal plants from House Bill 6, right? For how many years ago was that? And to the tune of about $160 million a year, which is insane. All right, that's insanity. So there's a bunch of things. Which one of these is most important, do you think, that you want to highlight?
Well, I think they're all important. right, and it's why those are some of our priorities in this General Assembly, the session that will be happening, that's happening right now in Columbus, the legislative session that's happening. Let's talk about energy a little bit if you want, because I think we've got a real opportunity here, and we saw, President Trump issued an executive order highlighting the energy crisis that we're facing in this country. It's something we heard as we were out there talking to voters on the doors last year about the candidates that we've endorsed and asking them what top issues are important to them. Second only to the economy was energy, right, and the cost of energy. And I think what we've got an opportunity to do here in a state like Ohio is phenomenal, right? You look at the state of Ohio, and we are an energy diverse state. Whether you like it or not, right, you can do the wind and the solar in Northwest Ohio. We've got a long, rich history in Southeast Ohio of coal. And then in the last decade or so, right, we discovered we're sitting on one of the largest deposits of natural gas resources in the world. And you got to wonder, right, Joe, you guys probably wonder the same thing, right? You look at your electricity bill, your utility bill, your gas bill, and you say, gosh, why every month does my bill keep going up when I'm hearing about all of the abundance of resources that this state is sitting on? Why aren't we getting more done? Well, the reason for that, right, is one, full visionary leadership. Two, a federal government that's been choking out, natural gas, coal, anything that isn't a wind mill or a solar panel, and a lack of regulatory policy, right, that creates an opportunity for these for the cheapest, most effective, most reliable.
At Ritual, we know what goes into a magical holiday season. The potluck planning, the gift giving, the spreadsheets. This new year, take a moment for yourself with simple, daily rituals that help you put your foundational health at the top of your to-do list. Ritual's Essential for Women 18 Plus multivitamin is a clinically backed multivitamin featuring 9 high-quality key essential ingredients to help you fill key nutrient gaps in your diet. Or maybe you're stressing your daily protein intake, or you want to double down on support for your gut microbiome. From plant-based essential protein to 3-in-1 pre, pro, and postbiotic strains with Symbiotic Plus, Ritual helps you focus on supporting your body after a long season of juggling everybody else. And for a limited time, do it with 30% off a 3-month supply at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Forms of energy to be made available. And so we think we're at a place where we can turn the page on what we've called the cronyist era of energy policy making, right? You look at the Biden administration and what they did, creating unfair standards on coal while throwing billions of tax dollars at the wind and solar industry as a favored industry of their administration. I think we've got an opportunity to clear the deck on all of that and really focus on an energy policy that is rooted in free market principles and will result in an abundance approach to energy policy making rather than a cronyism approach to policy making.
I got to tell you something. I'm so glad that we don't have Biden in there anymore. Good grief. Trump is killing it, too. It's hard to believe he's only been in there for 11 days. All right, I'm going to turn it over to some of you guys. But before I do that, Kent, we got to promote ourselves. Are you out there? First thing is, if you're in the chat, if anybody's in the chat, chat away, okay? Ask a question to Donovan, and we'll plug it up there, and we want to get you involved in that. So if you're in the chat, chat, please. And then real quick, we got to promote ourselves. So this is Ohio Political News, and you got some merchandise.
OhioPoliticalNews.com. There's a support button at the top. This does cost money to do, and also to share this. As much as we want to follow and likes, to share this out, let people know about the show, what we're talking about tonight, and it's really important to share it out to the whole state. But we do have a bunch of new merchandise. We are now trying to rechange the name of Lake Erie to Lake Ohio.
There you go.
I think that's going to be...
We got to let Trump know about that, too. We got to let Trump know about that. We want to change the name. We're changing everything else.
Yeah,
it's Lake
there's
Ohio.
And so we also have Ohio State had an alum, a very famous alum now. He's the VP of the United States, of J.D. Vance. So we decided to also make a J.D. Vance, Ohio State 1, and Michigan nothing on the shirt. We also have our own gear. So we got J.D. Vance shirts.
Yeah, I like that.
Hoodies. And we also have our own Ohio gear. And then we can't forget the property tax guys. I know Leonard and Brian are busy on working on everything there. So we have a bunch of stuff there. We're going to be adding. I know there's going to be mugs and everything like that. So we'll build up that. But we also have these guys like to talk property taxes. So
you could sell that during Halloween with those two guys on there. You know?
Yeah. I know. You come to the door wearing that, and people are going to go, "Wah!" It's like, all right, Brian. Let's get. You have a question or anything you'd like to ask Donovan about what we've been talking about?
Yeah, Donovan. We, as Joe said, we've been taking a look at property taxes for quite some time. Whether it's property tax, sales tax, or income tax, I see that there is the movement to eliminate the income tax, and we're moving in a different direction altogether because we always say any tax causing a citizen to become homeless is immoral. And when I look, we'd like to have a State of Ohio DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, as they're doing in the federal government, and it's our belief that the most expensive tax to administer is the property taxes, and we think there's got to be something done along the lines of property taxes funding schools, because eventually it's not sustainable where we're at with the sexennial revaluation. A lot of schools got a lot of money, but they're still coming back for more, and there are no checks and balances in our system that's protecting the citizens from being priced out of their home.
Yeah. I mean, we hear, again, being an organization that's out there knocking doors, talking there, as we were talking to folks about state issues, we saw property taxes being something that just came up a lot. Has to be, I think, a lot, as you were kind of pointing out, some of the reevaluations. So when people think about taxes, right, income tax is something that they would want to see eliminated or fixed. But yeah, then the property taxes, I think, have sort of flipped the script on all of that and want to get things changed. I think good news is you got a lot of folks, I think, through work that, folks like you, Brian, and others around the state have been doing. Legislators in Columbus seem to be hearing it loud and clear. Now, I think where some of the challenge lies is then figuring out, okay, what do we do with this? Because how do we fix this? How do we bring some relief to the system? Because the challenge is so much local government exists here in the state of Ohio. We're a pretty unique creature with the amount of local government that we have. I think we have a little over 6,000 political subdivisions that the Auditor of State evaluates, right? There's over 6,000 entities in the state of Ohio that receive or exist through taxpayer dollars, money out of you and my paycheck to go fund these government entities. Property taxes being one of the bigger areas that's hitting, and I hear it a lot, right? Like you pointed out, folks pay their mortgage off over 30 years. They're ready to retire, and then they see their tax bill nearly double. And on a fixed income, that can be a challenge to be able to absorb. And so I think the problem has been identified. The solution to that problem is one that I think is going to take a lot of engagement from grassroots and thought leaders across the state to be able to engage themselves in solving that problem.
Yeah, we're trying to talk to as many state reps as we can, and we did some of the numbers that we're looking at for the school districts where the property taxes, local property taxes, it's $11 billion, I believe, $11 billion statewide, and our calculation shows, and we've had it verified, that you could replace that property tax with a sales tax of about 4.5%. Now, no matter what you do, you're not going to satisfy everybody, but we're seriously considering, really approaching the legislators with you need a long-term fix on the property taxes. You need a short-term fix also, and the short-term fix that we're coming up with is replace the local property tax with a sales tax or a combination of taxes, but no more. See, people are merely renters from the government, Donovan. They don't own their own. Yeah. And they're starting to understand that now as we speak throughout the state, and it's quite an eye-opener for them.
Yeah, it is, yeah, without a doubt. One of the things I find is I'm going to go to the all-black. Try this. What the heck? One of the things I find about all this, too, is that with the inflation and everything, people are living paycheck to paycheck more and more now than ever. And so all of a sudden, every 6 months, you get this massive bill, that if you don't pay, they're going to take your house away eventually. It's a massive bill for some of the districts and stuff. Like I'm in Cleveland Heights. It's a massive bill, and it's like, it's causing a lot of stress and anxiety on people.
Yeah, Joe, another statistic that's important, remember we've been talking about the housing affordability threshold, where if the mortgage, property taxes, and utilities, if it reaches 30% of the annual income, that house is deemed unaffordable. I've been reading some articles now where some of the people are up in over 40% of their housing affordability threshold. And its utilities are starting to cost more. Here in the western part of Lake County, they had to put a new wastewater treatment center, I guess, in Euclid, which is making the utility cost.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Skyrocket. So that's adding to the added pressures, and also whether it's food or medical, it's really a tremendous burden. So, but what if they just zero out the income tax? I don't know what that does for seniors, to be honest with you.
Donovan, let me ask you a question here. As far as property taxes, does AFP have any strategy on property taxes or that you're aware of?
Yeah. Real quick, Brian, to your point about income taxes, I think one of the challenges we see, right, is there are when it comes to that is getting the state to be able to be competitive. In which, if you eliminate the income tax, you're not going to. One of the concerns that we hear from folks is we're not going to be able to pay for our police, fire, schools, roads, bridges. Well, you already pay for police and fire through your local income taxes, right? In a lot of cases, your schools, as you pointed out, are paid through your property taxes, which are rising and only getting higher, while the state keeps shoveling more money at public education, where they should be, in our opinion, should be funding parents, schools, as it's been said, not systems. And then when it comes to roads and bridges, right, here in the state of Ohio, those are funded through a gas tax, which, by the way, was raised not too long ago on a citizenry to fund more ODOT projects that never seem to end. When we look at so I think eliminating the income tax makes the state competitive. Then looking at local government, right, and the property tax challenge, There's a couple different things I think you could do. Largely, we're working to convene different folks together to be able to have some of those conversations. I think one thing that we're looking forward to having introduced, it should be introduced here in the coming weeks, is what's called truth in taxation legislation. And part of what that would do it's a package of a handful of different ideas. I'll be candid, it doesn't, as I understand it, do anything directly to stop the rise that has occurred, right, or provide any immediate relief, but it's sort of forward-looking as a tool to rein in that ever-increasing growth in local taxation, right? And so one of the things it does is it puts more responsibility on the local governments to communicate with their citizenry about what the real cost of property tax is. I live in the city of Mansfield. I just had a new levy imposed on my property, $500 a year. Meanwhile, in the city of Mansfield, right, where folks are struggling to make ends meet, yet for some reason they decided to vote to put more taxes on themselves here. I think a lot of that comes down to a lack of education or an obfuscation, not intentionally, but the way that these things work, right? You really got to dig in and take the time to learn them. We think you should have more transparency in understanding how many levies are imposed on your property, how much, what all that goes to, and how long you've been charged with it. I think the other thing that is key about the truth in taxation legislation is it's going to raise the threshold. So if this becomes law, you won't be able to impose a new tax with a simple majority. Still working on identifying the proper mechanism here, but it would require something like a 2/3 or a 60% majority. Similar to a proposal that we had in issue 1 to defend the Constitution last year. This would make sure that if you need new monies, right, the city council, the mayor, whoever, the school board have got to go out and really make the case very clear to earn, a 2/3 majority of votes to be able to raise the tax. I think things like that, with the transparency to help folks understand what they're paying and if they're getting what they are entitled to off the amount of money they're paying out every year in local taxes, coupled with that higher threshold that would put a dampener on the rampant growth. I also understand there's talks. I don't know if you guys have had him. He's up your way, Dave Thomas, former county auditor, now state representative, really seems to understand the issues inside and out. He's been having a lot of conversations with folks about some of the other things that could be done. I think especially when you look at inside millage, there's 20 mills. That's something I've heard a lot of lawmakers mention in Columbus as something they're taking a good hard look at. I think, again, would remove the ability for local governments to sort of unilaterally operate and raise our taxes and put more control back in the hands of the voters where it belongs when it comes to these things.
Yeah, let me ask you one question. I'm going to get to Jonathan here in a second, but that 60% threshold for the voters that you had mentioned for levies and stuff like that, I mean, is that reasonable? Do you think that could ever really become a law? So it wouldn't pass with a simple. It wouldn't pass with a simple 50% plus one. It would have to be 60%. The voters would have to be overwhelmingly in favor of the levy. You think that has any kind of a shot or not?
I think so, right? Because I think that's a happy middle ground, right? From where I think a lot of folks would want to go, where it's and we may very well go, right, where we're going to just curb the ability for local governments, right? Put a cap as one of the proposals on increasing your taxes or limiting how much a tax can grow year over year, right? Which could be a fine idea as well, one that's discussed. But I think that when you look at, let's put it in the hands of the voters. Let's put that. Let's require a higher bar before you can take more of our hard-earned money. I think that's very appealing to the Republican majority in the House and the Senate, and is something that I'd like to meet a local government official who says that's just too difficult. You shouldn't make us do that. That's their job. Their job is to, if they need more of my money, they've got to convince me and earn my vote.
Yeah, they got to earn it. They got to start earning that money, and that's what they got to start doing. You're right. I like that a lot, though. I like that a lot. What's happening?
Is it my turn? Hold on. Let me take a sip and gather my thoughts here. I'm getting in
Wait,
another shameless plug.
Show that mug. Show that mug again, please.
Yeah, this is our swag. If you haven't seen it before, ladies and gentlemen, look at that fancy. And this one happens to have my mug shot on the back of it. So you can see there's my my social media profile. So I have written a couple of notes here. There's just so much that's broken here. We could do a 24-hour segment on this. Just to throw a few things out, and then Donovan, thank you for joining us. I'd appreciate your feedback on any part of this that you feel inclined to comment on. The first is that we just continue to sally forth with this notion of tax and spend in the United States. This use it or lose it mentality is catastrophic, and we need to make better efforts to inform people and end it. And what I mean by that, for anybody that's not aware, if there's excess revenue for some project or an objective like education or roads or whatever, one of the key problems that's often overlooked is the fact that if we can manage to come in under budget or we end up with extra money, we don't sit on it. Outside of public education, that's another nasty, sticky wicket. But overall, what we have is all these government bodies that are pressured to spend it. And so they just blow money on anything and everything, which just constantly puts us behind the eight ball. We can never get ahead, and we can never get any easing because we're always out of money by design. So it's ludicrous to me that we just keep talking about this levy and that levy. It's all failing. I mean, I'm sorry to sound so pessimistic, but I mean, you've heard me talk about schools. Look at schools are now, what are we, nationally approximately 70% illiterate and behind grade level in just simple literacy. And don't even get me started on mathematics. We're overspending and the under delivery for all of it, for aviation and roads and bridges and waterways and construction and drinkable water, you name it. We're overpaying and we're getting less than what we should be. So this whole idea of like, well, there might be a levy in a couple of years and we might have to pass another 1.7. I say no to all of them across the board because let's doge the whole darn thing from the top down in Ohio. That's one comment. The other, you're talking about what to do in Ohio that makes Ohio more attractive. So I've had opportunity to establish and work with businesses in many other states, Utah, Delaware, Iowa, Connecticut, you name it, all over, California even. And a big key part of that is making a business-friendly environment. And while we're fond of saying that we're a red state and we have a Republican supermajority, I'm air quoting that in case you can't see me, Republican supermajority, our regulatory environment is not great. The regulators often work against small business, just destroying and crushing everything in its path. Our trust environment and business and commerce environment in Ohio is not great. So just like Ohio has fallen to 38th, approximately 38th in the nation for education, and we're one of the most expensive, we're also really expensive in lots of other arenas, and we have terrible laws that are not appealing and attractive to business. If you want to start a new business, it is actually, so I'll give the Secretary of State's website some praise in the ease with which you can set up a business in Ohio. But beyond that, the protections and trust laws and all that stuff could really use a breath of fresh air. And one last piece from my notes while Donovan was talking, and that has to do with the starting point for all of this stuff. We talked for years about Ohio back when we were a great state for education. We were among the top 10, starting in our public education system and our state colleges, etc. We talked a lot about brain drain, how we would do a great job of educating people in Ohio, but then they kept leaving to go to other places where there were job opportunities. Well, now we don't even have that. We have 38th in the nation, and a lot of our colleges, don't even get me started on Case Western Reserve, who handed an award to Anthony Fauci, which is preposterous. But we're not doing the things that we need to do in any of those regards. One last thing just to interject this, because I'm curious to get Donovan's feedback, if he has any, in pursuit of trying to get the real Republican supermajority without having to air quote it, but actually have a strong, solid Republican conservative voice in Columbus. What I call real Republicans. I started something a long time ago called Ohio Rhino Hunters. I'm all over social media. We have a new logo a couple of weeks ago. I'm going right after this whole rhino thing because, frankly, I believe we need to do a better job of separating the two, get out of the uniparty, single-party system, and get back to representative government. To me, all of those are kind of conjoined. I'd like Donovan's feedback on any of that.
Yeah, a lot of different places to go there. Let's start with that last point, though, because that's one of the things that we took a look at, right? I've been with Americans for Prosperity a little over 9 years now, and I've been in this role a little over 3 years. And in looking at not just the challenges we face in our economic competitiveness rankings or our education competitiveness rankings, but looking at what's causing that, right? The problem there that we identified was a lot of go along, get along types in Columbus, right? You'd send, just because you had an R after your name, it meant you were better than the person with a D after their name, and we're gonna send you there. And you talk the right talk at the Lincoln Day dinner, or you talk the right talk at the Republican Women's, or you come to the Liberty group, right? You have the courage to show your face at a Liberty group, and you talk the right talk there. But what you're doing when you're voting and when you're in caucus and when you're introducing legislation is totally the opposite of that. And so we engaged in primaries. We took our efforts not just to engage in open races, but to actually identify candidates, endorse candidates after we do a survey and interviews, and go out and canvass and campaign as we can as a 501c4 organization in support of those candidates. And, the first one, we took on 2. We won 1. We were 50% and sent, big labor Mark Frazier into retirement. Replaced him with a phenomenal guy, Thaddeus Claggett, Representative Claggett, who's a business owner and is in Columbus now doing the hard work and the heavy lifting that you expect. We came back a couple years later, or last year, right? Took on a number of folks. So I'm sure you folks are very familiar with the Blue 22. Not just those folks, right? But took on a number of folks who, like John Cross, who is anti-school choice, replaced him with a phenomenal representative now, Ty Matthews, right? Who's served his country, is now serving his state. And so I think the most important way, I think the reason we haven't been able to do as much as we ought to be able to do in the last 15 years of what we call a red state trifecta with Republican leadership in the House, governor's office, and Supreme Court, is because it's not enough to just send Republicans or conservatives, right, in air quotes, to Columbus. You got to send the right folks, and that's a lot of what we do. And I think that's going to be the key. We've got a lot of really good folks down there now, but you can't just sit back, right? You know this, Joe. You can't just sit back and figure they're going to do it. You got to keep them honest, and you got to give them the support, right, to do the things they said they were going to do when they earned our votes. And so, I think that's how you get to the other two things then, right? As you're talking about there with the taxes and the spending, despite being a state with a Republican leadership, right? Again, my area of a little more knowledge is at the state level, and I defer to, guys like Brian who are steeped and engaged at that local level and the challenges going on there. But real quick, and I'll turn it back over here, but since 2015, as we've cut tax brackets, we haven't slowed the spending. And I think that's a big problem. It's something we're going to be beating the drum on a lot over the next few years, especially as we get into next year at the gubernatorial primary and election. We've grown, we've grown the size of government, just in tax revenue, $7.5 billion from fiscal year 2015 to fiscal year 2023. In Columbus, they haven't stopped the spending, and that's where our problem lies. We have a spending problem, not a revenue generation problem here in the state.
I agree with that 100%. Leonard, if you have a question, Leonard, for Donovan.
Oh, yeah, just one question. I'll make it easy for him. first of all, thanks for coming on, Mr. O'Neill. Greatly appreciate it. Just one question for you. Do you think the state or the government should be involved in education?
I think in an ideal place, we would have parents who are involved in driving a child's education and making those choices. So no, I think you want to get, the ideal state would be to get government out of education and put the parents and families, just like it was, not that long ago in our American history.
And I do have one other question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I can get one. The other thing I'm concerned about is that one of the things we fail to see as far as the reality of where we are as a nation and a state, the country's broke. And you know it and I know it. Well, if you know economics, because most people don't understand economics, but we're basically printing money because that's what's causing the inflation. That's inflation, and that this is what we see. The cost is just a symptom or a result of inflation. Okay, and inflation is nothing more but putting more money in the supply than what we truly need. Okay, now the state's budget is over, say, 50, and I would say at least all of them are like 50 to 55% coming from the federal, okay? And the states are broke, okay? Now, inevitably, what's going to happen, as Brian stated, you can't sustain this. And what concerns me is that we're talking all about this stuff about what we can do. At the same time, you got people behind the scenes getting ready to push cryptocurrency, which is another ripoff that's going to take us further into the hole. We continue to keep breaking God's law and think there won't be consequences for it. And what's baffling to me is that if we don't own our homes, which is fundamental to liberty and freedom, you are vulnerable to a very dire situation. And that to me just does not sit well. So to me, all these other discussions about tweaking this and tweaking that, to me, ownership is the key to liberty. And if you have given that up, the devastation we're going to see for this next generation is unthinkable.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, too. Yeah, that is... Hey, let's... I don't know if you have a comment on that or not. It's a pretty good statement there, though. But let's see what this says here. The paradox, homeowners want to see their property value increase as an investment, but then everybody complains about there being no affordable housing. I mean, yeah,
that's so true. That is so true. Leonard and I tried to collect signatures on petitions way back when, and two things that we heard from most of the people is you got to support the schools for the kids. And when we ask them, well, do you know what kind of education they're getting as far as proficiency? No, I don't know. And then you must vote in the taxes because you've got to keep the property values high. And I'm saying to myself, we really have an uneducated society here going on. If they're voting, the other thing that we found out is people, when they go to the ballot box, many of them do not relate voting for a levy to the increase in taxes, if you can believe that. So then we found out that 40% of the people in Lake County who have a mortgage do not even see their tax bill. It goes to the mortgage company. We've asked the treasurer's office to send them out to everyone. They said, no, it's too costly. But then I find out that Ashtabula sends out the tax bills to everyone. Donovan mentioned that early on when he was talking about he doesn't think that many of the people really understand the number of levies, tax levies, that they are actually paying for, and I agree with that. Where in our taxing district, it's 35 now, 35 different levies, and the growth of government in Lake County is surpassing the private sector's ability to pay for the services.
Well, I would say one thing. If you got 35 items on your property tax bill, that's probably why it's so expensive to mail it out to everybody. It's probably like a phone book,
it's too big.
Yeah, it's too big. So, Donovan, again, I appreciate you for coming on. Is there anything you want to say in closing or anything like that, or plug Americans for Prosperity? And really, it's a great organization, and you're doing a fantastic job out there too as the state director.
Well, too kind. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys, and Yeah, I think, the only kind of things I share is, I think, what a lot of you folks do, and I'm sure a lot of your viewers and what all are involved in, right, is making sure that the friends and neighbors, people are aware of some of the concerns and challenges out there, right? And I think talk about us putting negative of Ohioans are frustrated with the direction, folks, it's folks like you, Leonard, right, where you've zeroed in, right, and very clearly have articulated and identified the problems that our state is facing with local taxes, right, especially the property taxes and the pain that's causing for so many folks, not just in Northeast Ohio, but across the state, right? And that's why organizations like ours in particular exists, right? As we're blessed with the resources to be able to have a full-time staff and field offices and operations that can help provide a platform to help Lock Shields partner with and amplify the voices of folks like you and others who want to take action. So I just encourage folks, if you are frustrated, or maybe you're happy, maybe you are happy with some of the direction we're going on taxes, some of the direction we're going on education, and you want to supercharge that, right? You want to help move Ohio in that better direction when it comes to funding families and education, or reining in state and local spending. Join us. Visit BuckeyeBlueprint.com. You can visit there, download our policy agenda, learn a little more about us, but most importantly, if you want to take action or join Lock Shields with us and join us, you can fill out the contact us form there on the main page, and one member of our team will reach out to you to get you plugged into some of the things we have going on out there. And so I just appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about what we're doing, some of my thoughts, hear some of y'all's thoughts, and chat with you here on a Sunday evening.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Hey,
yeah,
Joe.
Thanks, Donovan. Thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
Is there time for one more question? So, Donovan, I have a question for you. I'm not very familiar with Americans for Prosperity. I know the name. I don't know much yet about the platform. I will check that out. I'd like to know your position on the precinct strategy. So just for context, those who watch the show know that Dan Schultz and I train the United States twice a week on the social media platform Twitter X about precinct strategy. That's the objective of filling local representative seats within the Republican Party. About half of them nationally right now are empty. They're vacant seats, and that means that only about half of the United States has a local representative. It's approximately the same in Ohio. Ohio, by the way, has a dedicated website that is ohioprecinctstrategy.org. In my book, I've dedicated more than a year, twice a week, to these sessions where we train America on precinct strategy. I believe that it's that important. I'm wondering if you personally or Americans for Prosperity have a position on filling the empty seats.
Yeah, I don't think as an organization we have a formal position on that, but what I would say is I think that's commendable, and that the power of that, right? Not being too familiar with honestly with what you're working on there, but what I would say is this, because I've said it to our team and I've said it to a number of different groups for the years that I've been involved in politics, community organizing, grassroots movements, is if you just had, if every precinct in the state, right, had one person, and let's give it to them, both parties, who went out and did the work a couple times a year, just knocking on their neighbors' doors, reminding them to get out and vote, reminding them who's on the ballot, reminding them of what's at stake in an election, it would be an incredibly powerful force, right? So if conservatives, right, if those on the right of center can get behind that kind of activity and do that, right, all we really need you to do right out there, listener, viewer, is as volunteer, probably 2 hours out of a year of your time, 1 hour in the spring, 1 hour in the fall before an election, to go out and talk to your neighbors, get the list of registered Republicans, registered conservatives in your precinct, talk to them, remind them to get out and vote. It'd be a force to reckon with, right? Because the left is pretty well organized, but it's not there's no secret to what it takes to organize a community. That precinct level, that foundational level, is where it all starts. And I think if we had more of that precinct by precinct engagement out there, Conservatives, the conservative movement at large would be an unstoppable force, not just here in the state of Ohio, but across the country.
Yeah, I agree with you. It all comes down to just people getting involved, activism. Get up off the chair, the couch, or just take an interest in politics. There can't be anything more important. It is amazing in this country how we'll spend all our time knowing everything about, the Super Bowl teams that are coming up or the Buckeyes. But when it comes to policy, when it comes to politics, when it comes to them taking all our tax dollars, nobody pays attention to that stuff. So, well, thanks again, Donovan. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you coming on. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys having me on. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on again, okay?
We'll do. Anytime.
Thank you. See you later. All right, guys. I wanted to play something here earlier. And that was this little thing here.
Round we go. This is musical chairs.
Now, the reason I want to play musical chairs here for a minute is because, and by the way, Donovan O'Neill, he did a fantastic job, and I hope we can get him on again. He really, really did a fantastic job. This whole thing with musical chairs, the governor's race, just to go back to that for a minute, we have... Vivek Ramaswamy wants to run for governor in 2026. We have Dave Yost, who wants to run for governor. But Dave Yost is our attorney general. All right, so he wants to hop from that seat, attorney general, and he wants to go to the governor's office. And then we have Robert Sprague, who is the current treasurer, and he wants to get rid of that seat, and he wants to become governor. And then you have Keith Faber, who is our current auditor of the state of Ohio, and he wants to get out of that hot seat, and he wants to hop into the seat being vacated by Dave Yost and become the new attorney general.
Go around, and when the music stops, sit down.
Okay, so I don't know. It's just a bunch of musical chairs, and
well, that's what happens because of term limits. They do it because of term limits.
Well, we should have permanent term limits. We should have just a term limit should be you're only going to be in public office this many years. Get your keister out of there because we don't want to see it anymore, okay?
Yeah,
just hit the road.
You're exactly right. What you're talking about, Joe, is citizen legislature, and that's what our country was founded on. These career politicians, these people that go in, now just setting aside even for a moment the prospect that they all seem to get into office and get rich, which is egregious and awful. The whole notion of our representative government, and a big part of the plan behind precinct strategy is get us back to representative government, for goodness sakes. We've lost that. We have the corporate interests, really, let's be honest, corporate interests have the ear of most of our elected representatives. They'll come and schmooze us and ask for money, but at the end of the day, they're not truly listening to us until we fix that. But this idea that several thoughts at once, let me parse them. We need to get back to a representative government, and that's the objective behind the precinct committeeman strategy. And to me, everything else kind of flows off of that. So when we try to fix issues, we talk about whatever the issue is, trying to correct bad education in schools and the woke stuff, and trying to fight back against this intended 15-minute city and the centralized banking, digital currency, and all of that stuff. Those are issues. Our border and what our sheriff is or isn't doing appropriately to help ICE get illegal aliens out of the county, and all of that stuff, those are issues. If you don't have political power, if you don't have a representative voice in government, people are just going to smile at you and walk away and go to where the money is. So ultimately, what you're talking about, Joe, is citizen legislature. And the notion of that is politics shouldn't be fun. It isn't. And it shouldn't be richly rewarding either. It's for people who have reached some level of success and comfort in life and are willing to go and provide public service. That's the key word. Those are the key words. public service. Those are people that are willing to go and say, it'll probably be thankless, but I'll go and do it. I'm not going to make a whole lot of money. I'll have some people that have, whatever. It's not a great fun thing to do, and it shouldn't be. That's what citizen legislature is all about. People that have a job, they set it aside for a little bit to go and provide for the community and greater good, and then they come back to their real job. These people like Sherrod Brown and Bernie Sanders and AOC and all these people, and it's on the right and left. Both sides do it, of just trying to get into politics, and poof, lo and behold, 10, 15, or 50 years go by, and they suddenly have 5 mansions and a private jet, and it's ridiculous.
Well, a lot of that happens. Yeah, a lot of that happens more at the federal level, I think, where they really get those jets and those mansions and stuff.
It's pretty bad in Columbus.
But at the Columbus level, what bothers me a lot, some people do get incredibly rich at the Columbus level as well. But you take a guy like Dave Yost. Dave Yost has been hopping chairs for a long time. Robert Sprague, he was in the Senate. I believe he's a House rep for a while. Then he's the treasurer now. Now he's looking to be governor. So it's like, enough is enough. There should be a real term limit. There should be an absolute term limit that, after so many years, you're out of here. So any final thoughts on that or anything?
Yeah, I would agree with what Jonathan is saying. This representative democracy that we're talking about is really just an illusion. And I certainly would like to get it back to where it was at its roots, but it's going to take quite a bit of an effort. And we've got so many battles to fight. Property taxes and growth of government. It's going to be a challenge. But we've got to do it for the next generation, not necessarily for ours.
Yeah. And one thing, too, when we were looking at job growth over right now, Ohio is ranked 35th over the last 6 years. And that's been the term from DeWine and Husted, because they've been running the state for the last 6 years. So we've dropped to 35th in job creation, job growth. And some of those states should not be ahead of us, like Tennessee. Come on, that used to be a hillbilly. They used to be a hillbilly state. It ain't anymore. I mean, they've passed us by. Indiana has passed us by. I was talking about Utah. Colorado has passed us up. There's 35 of them now that have outdone Ohio. So things have got to change. We have got to get some. Well,
who's been at the top? Who's been at the controls? Been the Republicans.
It's been the Republicans, but the rhinos or the Uniparty or the that's what's been in charge.
We're back to the same thing, and part of it in my book is these open primaries, and we have had the last series of all of the people who get elected into Columbus, including DeWine, because in my book the Democrats give them to us. That's what they give us. The Democrats cross over, they pull the ballot from the opposing team, and they overwhelm the system. It was supposed to be designed around an honor system. If you went in to go and vote for somebody on the Republican ticket in the primaries, you're presumed to be Republican. But the Democrat Party, well, actually they both do it, and they have for a long time. But the Democrat Party has exceeded us in dramatic fashion for many election cycles now, where they just go in. They're so desperate to make sure they're so desperate to make sure that no solid, strong, conservative Republican gets in office that they just throw mass numbers of just throw away Democrat votes. They cross over, pull the ballot, and that's why we have DeWine. That's why we have a lot of people like him, and we have in the past. So we've lost, I don't know how many election cycles in a row of possible good people that could have gotten into office and done much better for us. I mean, there are people, and I know, I talk to them every once in a while, the 3 that I've found in the last 8 years, who really like DeWine. I still don't understand why, but they think that he is a Republican. But then I'm back to that same question. Okay, what do you like? They're like, well, it's DeWine, and I can't get a solid answer. There's no tangible conservative policy that's driving anything good. And frankly, having these numbers, like falling to 38th for education, the things DeWine did to destroy our initiative to get medical freedom last year, and falling to 35th, you say, in job growth, we have nothing good to show for it in Ohio. And we have, the Democrats are licking their chops for the next primary to see what sort of middle of the road or low IQ schmo they can put in there and foist upon us to have to deal with for another 4 years. I've actually argued that we should close the primaries. There are people on our side, unfortunately, who disagree with me. They get into all sorts of convoluted arguments about how, I don't even know. I think Republicans should be voting for the Republicans that get into office, and I think we'd be in better shape if we could get there.
Yeah, we would be. All right, I'm going to send it over to Leonard. Leonard, give us some words of wisdom. We'll probably wrap it up with you here tonight, okay?
Again, I just want to state there's one thing we're missing in this discussion, and that's the reality of where we are. Number one, we are an ungodly society. I don't hear anybody talking about what's in the Word of God and how we fix it. It's staring us right in the face, but we have no discussions about it. Secondly, we're an uneducated society, and we're pumping out socialists by the moment. We can call them conservatives, we can call them Republicans, whatever, but we are pumping out socialists and creating a Marxist society, and we're paying for it with our tax dollars. And third, with the church silent and there's no theology coming out, and sometimes worse, bad theology, you got a bad mix. So as far as term limits won't fix anything, because all you're doing is preparing the next group of socialists. Term limits are already there. It's called voting. So the uneducated society is what drives all this. And we don't talk about the moral character of men, the moral character of leaders. We call them conservatives, Republicans, but no one gets down to the hard facts of what drives this man's theology and how is he going to think and reason with the situation that we have. We do not ask those type of questions. And until we get to that, we're kidding ourselves into thinking we can put all these processes and different types of things out to work with and change, but it ain't going to happen.
I gotcha. Yeah, I want to ask you one question, Brian. This might be slightly off topic, but with Trump now, he has put the kibosh on a lot of these nonprofits and stuff that have been helping with immigration. I know Catholic Charities is one of them that he's put the kibosh on. And I think that's a good idea. I think that's a really good idea because the church should not be involved in illegal activity, no matter how much money you're making from doing it, right?
Well, they've been involved in it in a long, long time, and we've seen local parishes here in Lake County that are helping illegals that come into our country. Now they say that's the role of the church. Okay, and I think I mentioned to you guys before that I wrote the article about you must have a strong southern border. It cannot be open if you want national sovereignty. And I was challenged by a local Catholic priest, said I wasn't a good Christian because I believed in the closed border. So the Catholic Church that I've been associated with, they've been undermining the national sovereignty of the United States as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they absolutely have because, where I'm at, I didn't stay for it, but there was a priest that was going to give a talk after Mass about the immigration and the work that he's doing out in, I think, Arizona and stuff. And I'm thinking that's not good timing because Trump just cut off all funding to Catholic Charities, from what I understand, and all of those nonprofit groups that were helping the illegal aliens. That's just crazy times that we're living in. So,
Joe,
any last thoughts?
Joe, we need a stinger for breaking news. Just noticed that JD Vance tomorrow, we're going to be live streaming on Rumble, X, Facebook. We'll eventually get back on YouTube, but that's a touchy story. But JD Vance is going to East Palestine tomorrow at around 10 a.m. We will be live streaming that on Ohio Political News. So just so for everybody,
it's a 2-year anniversary, It's the 2-year anniversary.
2-year anniversary. So we'll be live streaming that.
For East Palestine. It's been 2 years already, guys. Seems like just yesterday. It's 2 years. I lost 2 years of my life, and I don't know where it went. What was I doing? Sleeping through it? What the heck happened? Wow. But yeah, that's great. That's great to see JD.
JD will be there. Bernie Marino and DeWine will all somehow get together down there.
DeWine will probably be out there too. He's going to be out there too.
Yeah, DeWine. Yeah.
All right, and we'll cover it. We'll cover it right here.
Yep, we'll be covering it.
All right, going once, going twice.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Good night, Joe.
Good night, guys.